Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a topic that honestly, almost all of us have experienced at some point: emotionally draining platonic relationships. You know, we put so much focus on toxic romance, right? But what about the friends who weaponize guilt and leave you just utterly exhausted? Well, let's shed some light on exactly why guilt trips destroy friendships. Let me start off by asking you a quick question. Have you ever apologized to a friend for something you didn't even do? Like just to clear the air or make that really uncomfortable tension go away? Yeah, we've all been there. But that confusing feeling of a forced, unearned apology, that's actually a glaring sign of subtle manipulation. And today, we're going to break down exactly how that happens.
So this brings us to a really fascinating concept: platonic parasites. See, not every toxic person in your life is a romantic partner. A lot of the time, the energy vampires, the crisis creators, those covert competitors, they're the very people you call your best friends. If you feel emotionally wiped out after hanging out with someone, your exhaustion is completely valid. Honestly, they might be the exact thing keeping you miserable.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our field guide for unmasking these hidden social dynamics today. First, we'll look at why not all parasites are romantic. Then, how guilt turns care into currency. We'll cover triangulation and silent treatments, the manufactured white knight, decoding the ultimate defense known as Darvo, and finally, escaping the social traps.
All right, Section 1, not all parasites are romantic, recognizing the exhaustion. Moving right along to Section 2, guilt, care turned into currency.
So why do we put up with this? Well, we often tolerate bad friends because of a deep shared history, or maybe just a simple fear of isolation. And that tricks us into accepting deeply unhealthy social roles just to keep the peace. But here's the thing, the subtle guilt trip is rarely a friend aggressively yelling at you. It is way sneakier than that. It's a quiet sigh, a loaded pause. This dynamic essentially turns your care into currency. It's this invisible pressure that makes your genuine kindness feel like an endless debt you're constantly trying to repay. Suddenly, you setting a perfectly healthy boundary is framed as you being cold, distant, and selfish. There's a really important core difference we need to recognize here. Real guilt comes from you actually violating your own values. Manipulated guilt, on the other hand, that is just someone else's control tactic designed to keep you in line. You really have to pause and ask yourself if you actually did something wrong or if you're just falling for a calculated control maneuver. Remember, you are perfectly allowed to hold your boundary.
Which brings us to Section 3, triangulation and silent treatments.
Now, guilt is often just a gateway to much more complex psychological manipulation. First up is triangulation. You know, when you're trying to resolve a simple one-on-one disagreement and suddenly your friend says something like, "Well, everyone else agrees with me," or "Sarah thinks you're overreacting too." They aren't communicating. They're building an invisible team against you. They literally pull a third person into the conflict to build an alliance, deliberately making you feel guilty for being the only one with an issue. It forces you to defend yourself against a side conversation you were never even invited to.
Next is the dreaded silent treatment. This is when a friend uses absence and coldness as a punishment until you just cave. And let me tell you, the unbearable anxiety this causes is completely intentional. It leaves you guessing, replaying everything you ever said, and feeling this immense pressure to fix a problem you don't even fully understand, just to get them to acknowledge your existence again.
Think about it like this: they control when the relationship feels safe. When a friend goes completely unreachable, that is not them needing a healthy pause for space. No, it's a calculated demand for control. They're sending a clear, punishing message about who exactly holds the power in your dynamic.
All right, Section 4, the manufactured white knight.
Let's introduce a very different kind of friend. Some friends appear to be absolute heroes. They bring deep concern and unasked-for solutions right to your doorstep. But here is the kicker: they build the fire just to show up with the hose. These friends might quietly stir up conflict behind the scenes, or slowly chip away at your confidence. Why? Because being your savior gives them immense power over you.
So the crucial distinction here is that genuine help helps you rise. The white knight needs you on your knees. Toxic support always comes with strings attached. Have you ever noticed that if you start growing, healing, or solving your own problems, this type of friend suddenly turns incredibly cold? Yeah, they need you broken to remain relevant in your life.
Before we look at defenses, let's briefly touch on breadcrumbing. This is when a friend drops flashes of interest, basically like emotional clickbait, to keep you invested without ever being accountable. It's that exhausting dynamic of random texts and vague plans that creates an endless loop of anticipation and letdown. Remember this: consistency speaks way louder than charm, and you deserve a lot more than just crumbs.
Let's look at how to protect ourselves in Section 5, the ultimate defense, decoding Darvo.
Now, what's really interesting about this next tactic is how it uses absolute narrative control to bury your completely valid concerns. Darvo is an acronym for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. Honestly, this is the most disorienting tactic of all. It's the ultimate weapon to manufacture guilt, and it usually happens right after you respectfully try to tell a toxic friend that something they did hurt your feelings. It's basically narrative control disguised as emotional manipulation. Let's walk through exactly how this trap closes on you step by step. Step 1, they completely deny it ever happened. Step 2, they go on the offensive, maybe attacking your tone or calling you dramatic. And step 3, they completely flip the script, reversing roles to become the ultimate victim, acting as if your honesty was this huge act of cruelty against them. By the end of this rapid sequence, you are somehow the one apologizing and defending yourself, just for trying to be honest about your feelings. It's wild.
Finally, Section 6, escaping the social traps. Once you recognize these manipulative dynamics for exactly what they are, you can finally take your power back. It is time for an escape plan. First, stop chasing noise and absence. Tell them openly you will not be punished with silence, and demand direct communication. Second, pull those triangles apart by insisting they talk directly to you, not about you to a third party. When you're faced with Darvo, do not take the bait. Stay incredibly clear on your facts and repeatedly return to your original point without getting distracted by their manufactured victimhood. And finally, always prioritize consistency over charm.
I want to leave you with a provocative question to think about. Are you surrounded by true friends? Are you just constantly paying emotional debts and drowning in manufactured guilt? Take a really hard look at your social circle. Understanding these dynamics is the absolute first step to protecting your peace and breaking the cycle of toxic friendships. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always value your own emotional energy.